everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to have a look at another game that we have seen in Champions, and this time I'm going to be specifically looking at the way that Cloud9 attacked on the Breeze map that they played against Full Sense. Now for me this was a really interesting game because this map particularly, I think everyone thought this was going to be a breeze, no pun intended, for Cloud9 because they are very good at the Breeze map. They've only ever lost it once in history, and yet they went 6-6 at the half. But personally, I think that Cloud9 showed a lot of really interesting ideas, but also the way that they adapted throughout the course of this half and the way that they used much of their utility and coordination really intrigued me. So I wanted to have a look. So the start of C9's attacking half, I think it's fair to say, was a bit messy. Similarly to how we saw on Split, they force-poured on the round following their lost pistols, which is obviously something we don't see a lot of teams doing. But I feel like in this round number 2, they seem to have a little bit of indecisiveness, which is something that, to be honest, they argue improved a ton throughout the course of the attacking half. A lot of the way that they use their utilities set them up for failure in this round. Notably, the fact that they set up an A site Viper's wall to begin with, they couldn't find a way into the B site, especially once Mitch gets killed by Chalala in tunnel, and the way that they attempt to clear the A site corner as well as Pyramid are desynced, so they have no real way of providing sufficient pressure onto the A site because they've taken no mid or halls control either. As a direct result, Full Sense get to hold onto the B site virtually for free, and they can use mid in the late round to cut off Vanity's rotation and prevent the spike ever reaching the A site. It becomes clear across the next few rounds that not only is C9 economically challenged, but Leaf is also really not having the best time either. Even by the end of round 4, he's still the bottom fragger, hasn't found any kills, and is just really struggling to get much value in this game so far. But I think that in a number of the rounds that are upcoming, we actually start to see adaptations be made by C9 that do help with this problem particularly. For example, in round number 3, C9 decide to go for a more assertive A site push, being led by Leaf. But due to Lami's presence on the A site corner, which is somewhere that Full Sense previously didn't have any defender playing, as well as John Olsen on the backside, it's very easy for Leaf to become overwhelmed carrying just a classic. Because Leaf gets killed, the remaining C9 players have to deal with one more defender than expected, which pulls the attention away from PTC on Pyramid and makes the entire attempt fall apart. In this round particularly, it makes me wonder if just a cloud burst alongside the dash could have helped Leaf. It would have concealed him in that moment and maybe given him an advantage in the gunfight. But the fact that Zeppa finished the round with both his flashes in pocket as well was a bit of a question mark for me, and potentially indicative of some of the utility changes that needed to be made going forward. But then you look to round 5 and you see how they changed their approach when going against an Eco, or Eco Plus because it's a bit closer to a partial, on an A site where they invest resources specifically into the back site, which is where they send Leaf alongside Mitch, who can use his cages for support and being able to cut off line of sight, and then having Zeppa, Zeta, and Vanity all working closer to the front of site against the defenders there. They did actually end up losing this round, but I actually do think that if Zeppa had turned his attention to Lami in the site corner at the same time that Vanity got a kill onto Chalala, then they probably would have won it. It just so happened that they missed him when they did the flash, and Lami got 2 very good kills off the back of that. In round 4, as I noted earlier, Leaf still hasn't achieved a single kill, but you start to see C9 bring in some ideas to their approach that remain prevalent until the very end of the half, and most of this involves taking mid control very earlier on in their attack. In this case, they know there's an operator in play, and that's being held over at Cave, so they need to pressure the A site from a different angle. The way they do this on this round is using a dagger on door and then the recon dart up towards Nest and Tunnel. The round still doesn't end very well for Leaf. He gets killed right after PTC pushes up on Vanity in Cave, and as a direct result, it's nearly impossible for C9 to control the B site. Full Sense can rotate through mid, and as well as trying to clear out the defenders and all the defensive utility that's actually on the B site, it's virtually impossible to make a successful engagement onto the site when you don't have a Viper's wall that could cut off CT, tunnel, and elbow, and you don't have a jet with dash and smokes that you can use to engage onto the site. By the time we get to round number 7, there are a number of improvements in Cloud9's attack that I think highlight not just adaptation, but also a growing comfort within this game. Firstly, the fact that they waited a little later in the round to use the Viper's wall rather than using preemptive ones, I really liked. I felt like most of the preemptive Viper's walls that they used at the start of the half kind of came back to bite them because they could have ended up being used better off later in the round, and they weren't using any information about Full Sense's defense to choose its placement. In this case, they placed the Viper's wall along the default, A site line that most teams do, but it was in alignment with the attacking engagement as it was going on, and it was done after they knew that all of the defenders were further towards the back of the site this time, and none of them would be forward of that Viper's wall. In fact, before they placed the Viper's wall, they used the dagger into Hall and the owl drone into Cave, so this obviously helped support their decision to commit to the A site and thus place their Viper's wall, but it also helped to gain control over Hall, which was something that in the earlier rounds they didn't prioritize. And from here on out, C9 actually only execute onto the A site, and I think a lot of that is because they become very adept at being able to attack onto the site using at least 2 of the 3 routes out of Cave, Hall, and Door. This was also a round which I think really highlighted Xeppaa's role on the KO quite well. In some of the earlier rounds, I actually, one of my things was that I would have preferred to have seen a Sky in a couple of them, mostly because of the use of the Trailblazers, and I felt like they weren't getting the full value out of the KO. But by this point, actually, I was like, hell yeah, I'm down for this Xeppaa KO. Xeppaa uses a good dagger at the start in coordination with other fact-finding from his teammate. He initiates the push with a null command to help support Leaf, pushes in during the null command to help the gunfight at a time that he has a res available, so he can be a bit more risky, and after he's used it, he uses the dagger into Door alongside Vanity's Viper's Pit to buy enough time to get the spike down and set up a post plant, all the while staying out the way enough that he can provide this support the entire way through. He never gets too greedy or too ballsy, and his priority the whole way through is coordinating his utility with the needs of the team. Once we get into round 8, we start to see a number of highlights come out from C9, so their continued use of Hall and mid actually proved to be incredibly fortuitous for the way that they want to be accruing this control of the A site. It's not that common to see a team commit to push onto a site that is having one of its choke points cut off by a defender's Viper's Pit, but Cloud9 want to continue to do it, using the dagger on the Door and poison orb on Nest to secure a route in, as well as then a dagger on Switch to help support Leaf in taking that space, especially in conjunction with Zeta using his Hunter's Fury from Cave to help Leaf get a kill onto Lammy. Basically, all of this is a great example on how smoothly Cloud9 can coordinate their utility to take a site that isn't actually technically the favorable site based on the defensive setup. It's also definitely a highlight round for Leaf, just given how cool the short-range op-shot onto John Olsen is, especially as the round could have gone the entire other way had he not landed that kill. But I think a player who really deserves highlighting in this round actually is Mitch. Full Sense have shown a pattern for their last B-site defender to make an incredibly late rotate when they're actually needed over on the A site. And Mitch's lurk and control of mid ensures that when that rotate is actually made by the defenders, it's never completed, which is particularly poignant at a time in the round where Full Sense are under extreme time pressure. Mitch also showed really good utility usage on round 6 in C9's first post-plant situation, where he used his cages to cut off Superbus's route into the site through Door. I think the next wave of issues that needed adaptation become known in round 9, where C9 use a ton of utility and manpower to try and take this mid control, and it just gets thrown back in their faces. They used the dagger and recon dart pairing up towards tunnel and elbow, as well as the poison orb in Nest. Now this round is an eco round with blades for Full Sense, so what that does mean is that Cloud9 have the weapons advantage, and if they come to an altercation in Door, then not only are they going to have the weapons advantage in that fight, but also the trade potential, but they do use Zeta's owl drone anyway just to try and fact find in that moment. However, PTC is playing in mid with blades, and he doesn't have any issues getting past the poison orb, and Full Sense managed to pick apart Cloud9's attack pretty quickly. Vanity does show some nice utility usage towards the end to try and hold on, but it doesn't end up working for him and they lose the round. The big concern for me in this round is that C9 used the utility of 4 different agents for this mid push, and they ended up losing it to a floaty cloud woman with knives. The problem here is that if you invest all that utility and you're not getting anything out of it, you're being picked apart by an eco round. A, that's a problem, and B, if they had somehow managed to scrape onto the next step of the round, they would be at a dearth of utility for whatever it is they need in that moment. You can't spend that much early in the round and then have it just come to nothing. However, they do show a really nice way of improving on this in round 10, which is where they want to cross mid. They use Mitch's cages just to the east of Windmill so that their route through door cannot be seen with a line of sight from tunnel or nest. This is so much more efficient for the cost of resources, and it means that Zephyr and Zeta can play back from cave where they played in previous rounds, and they can use their utility in coordination with Vanity to focus on the area of the site that they actually want to plant on. After that, we see a good confident Leaf round playing into a full sense partial, and then a disappointing final round for round number 12. The approach is actually a nice improvement on the ideas that they had in round number 3, where they have Leaf dash in. This time he uses his Cloud Burst to help conceal and support that. They've got a Hunter's Fury coming in from behind in cave to try and clear out Pyramid, but one of the problems here is that because Cloud9 didn't actually take mid control early, that door area is being held by John Olsen, who gets a couple of really nice kills and is able to provide a lot of support to the rest of Full Sense from there, and they can pull Cloud9 apart from those positions. Personally, what I like so much about this attacking half was being able to see these thought processes come out from Cloud9 as they were enacting them, how they were building on these ideas, and what I really love about watching Cloud9 play is how wonderfully coordinated their utility is on rounds where they're doing it really well. There are many teams where you can pick out a couple of players and say, those two coordinate really well, those two coordinate really well, but it feels like on Cloud9, any of the players can be put with any of the players and they would still have it to a T the way that they want to use all of their utility. Personally, I think that Cloud9 could have come away with the attacking half win had they figured some of this out a little bit earlier and not had that economic downfall that they felt in the first few rounds, because that really is what set them back. Once they started to build that up again, then actually they were doing pretty well. So I am particularly excited to see how Cloud9's game against Vision Strikers today, is it today? 7th of December. Yes. Today. I'm not filming on the 6th. I'm really excited to see how Cloud9 versus Vision Strikers is going to go today, and how Cloud9 actually improve. I think the thing for them is going to be adapting faster, building on those adaptations faster, ensuring they're not wasting utility early. Because when they use utility well, they do it really well. And of course, we already know how these players like Leaf and Zephyr can play. And when you've got the support from players like Zeta and Mitch, it's so beautiful. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it interesting. I'm really curious to know you guys' thoughts on the way that Cloud9 are playing. Let me know if you have any ideas for what you would like for me to talk about next, and I will see you in the next video.